As you guys probably already know, I have absolutely fallen in love with Fantasy Life I. But as a brand new player to the franchise, there were definitely some things I learned 30 hours into the game that I wish I knew at the start. So today we're going to go through absolutely everything I wish I knew sooner in Fantasy Life I. Now first up, we're going to start with something that will just make your fantasy life journey a little bit easier. And that is just some free items that you can claim. To do this, you need to go to menu, select gifts, then you go to gift code entry and enter in the following codes and click connect. So I've put the codes on the screen here, and I'll also leave them on the description box down below so you can copy and paste them. But just a note, you're going to need an internet connection for these to work. And for some unknown reason, you also need to have Nintendo Switch online if you're going to claim these on the Switch, which is such a weird thing, but it is what it is. And each of these codes give you a bunch of different items, all of which are really useful. And if you missed it, they also announced that there's going to be free DLC on their Twitter as well. Yeah, you heard that right. There's no date yet, but it says on the website that there's going to be new recipes and expanded content, which looks to be adding on to the Endgame experience to make use of some higher rarity weapons. So when we go through all of these tips and tricks, bear that in mind, because that means there's more to come. Now our first tip is actually about how to get your game looking a little bit better. As for some reason, especially on the Nintendo Switch, the default brightness is just set way too high. So all you have to do is go to settings and graphics and turn it down just a little bit for the graphics to pop a bit more. Next, I want to cover mounts, because despite the fact that I've played for 40 hours, it took me until now to realize how to get them. First of all, you need to go on your weird pad, and if you didn't already know, you can actually rearrange all of the icons in this just as a bonus tip. But you're going to want to go over to mounts, and here you can see everything that you have and how many there are to unlock. And if you hover over any of the spots, it will actually tell you the exact location to find this mount. Just a word of warning though, some of these are going to be incredibly expensive to find. Now, even though the story is very fun, it often gets you to leave areas before you've had a chance to explore them properly. Now, I think my biggest piece of advice is actually to let yourself get distracted, as there is so much to do outside of the story. Now, often each chapter will wind up leveling you up a fair amount, so this can actually be the perfect time to go back to some of the previously explored areas and make the most of it. This can include going into the mines that were previously a pretty high level for you and getting all the resources. Iron, for example, is kind of hidden in this very mine here, so make sure you don't miss it as it's incredibly useful. You'll also be able to take on some of the bosses that were absolutely unobtainable before, and these can either be the bosses that you need to fight, or there's effectively boss trees and boss rocks for you to take on as well. These are most definitely worth it as they give you some pretty good loot, but there'll also be a chance to find some other hidden things like strangelings as well, so it is well worth it. This also brings me to something that took me way too long to realize, and that is that you can climb walls, which should make your time exploring being a lot better. And just a reminder, you do want to pick up everything that you see, be these chests that you pass or resources, as you don't really have a bag size limit, so you might as well collect everything as you go. Next up, let's talk about the lives themselves. Now, I think in order to have the most fun with Fantasy Life, you want to pick up as many jobs as you can. I've personally decided to take up just one of the combat classes, because then it's really fast to level that one up and be over leveled so battles are easier, but then I've picked up all of the other classes to level up as I go. And I've honestly been really enjoying this approach, so I can definitely recommend it. Now first up, let's talk about the Life Masters. These are the people that you can go to level up your life if you've done enough of the job quests. But one thing you might not know is that you can teleport to them directly by going into the life menu and pressing whatever button it says to press down here. which makes keeping on top of all your lives an awful lot easier. Another thing you're going to want to keep on top of is the skill tree itself, as chances are if you're struggling with something, you can probably solve it by spending some points on the skill tree. Now, there were two things that I found focusing on pretty early on were very helpful. First of all, that was increasing my SP, which is the blue bar, as this will help out every single one of not only your gathering lives, but also your combat ones, so it's well worth it. And this will be everything on the bottom side of the skill tree. The other thing that I unlocked super early on was the top side of the tree, and this is your special skill. Now, if you're not familiar with this, it's a skill that will unleash a really powerful hit without using any of your SP. And you can see whenever it's ready with this symbol down in the bottom right hand side, which will tell you which buttons to press when it's time to use it. For me, that's L1 and Y. And this skill is super useful for trying to level up as fast as you can. As with 14 lives to keep up with, leveling up is something you're going to be spending a lot of time doing. So here's how I personally level up my lives fast. Now, as you probably know, you get more XP from defeating higher level objects than lower. So I'd typically go up to like a rock or a tree that's 1 or 2 levels higher than what I'm currently at. Now, in order to successfully take it down, you will want to keep on checking for the sweet spot and only attack there. And in case you didn't know with the sweet spot checker, if you get this little dotted symbol, that means it should be on the other side of the object or somewhere close by. If you get this yellow symbol, then you're usually within a quarter of where the sweet spot is. So that should help you find it a little bit faster. You'll also want to use that special power we talked about as often as possible. And if you want the excellent hit, you definitely want to save it till towards the end. One top tip as well is that you can go and do combat to fill up the special skill faster, ready to take on a stronger rock or tree that you want to take down. And if you are trying to farm items for XP, just remember you can go out of the area and then back in, and everything will respawn again. Now, one other thing that will really help you target the higher levels is strangelings. So as you probably already know, strangelings are these weird objects with eyes that you'll find across your journey. And if you go off to the goddess, you can change these into people. And these people can come around with you on your journeys and even level up as buddies. Now, even though you come across them in the story, you're actually going to want to go out and find as many as you can, or at least one strangeling per type of life. You see, each strangeling has a life which they're attributed, and that is the life which they can help you out with. Some of them will be combat focused, others will be gathering and resources, and some will help you craft, but all of them are super useful. So say, for example, you're trying to level up mining by taking on some rocks a couple of levels higher than you are. For that, I'd bring my mining buddy along with me because they can do damage alongside of you and even when you're not. And you're not even limited to just bringing one mining buddy with you. If you have 3, you can bring them all along to help you out as well. My other favorite so far has been bringing Kanunji with me. I don't know if other strangelings do this, but she in particular will throw SP potions at you when you're trying to gather resources, making getting higher level ones even easier. Now, if you're finding out that you're starting to struggle taking down some of these objects, then that might be because your equipment is too low of a level. So first of all, if you've been out grinding levels for a while, you might want to check the equipment tab, as quite often you'll end up picking up loot which can include better tools, so it's always worth having a look. If you have a particularly useful charm that you either got as a pre-order bonus or ones that you made yourself, you can also click this button here to apply it to every life at once. Because in case you didn't know, if you just click on a single life to add a charm, it only applies to that one. You also have the choice to either buy tools, and as you progress the story, you'll get access to higher level ones, or you can craft them yourselves as a blacksmith. Now, I recommend going this way more because once you get good at crafting, you'll be able to craft items with some special effects that you might not necessarily be able to buy. You also need to keep an eye on your buddies. So after you go to the town hall and select which buddies you want on your adventure, you can then go to your equipment tab and deck them out in all your best stuff as well, making them even more useful. Now, when it comes to crafting, there is something really important we need to talk about, and that is not using the automatic crafting button. No matter how far you are through the game, this is a bad move. And that's because you don't reap the rewards of getting a great job or perfect. You see, if you're crafting materials and you get a perfect, you'll get 4 times the amount of materials that you tried to make. And this is especially costly as you get later on in the game, and it gets easier to get perfects for the materials. It also affects things such as making weapons and armor. As for these, if you get a good or perfect job, it will give bonus attributes to the weapon or armor that you've made. If you do it automatically, however, you'll miss out on that as well. You can also change the look of any of your lives without affecting its properties by going to the Outfits tab. Another good way I found of leveling up is Ginormosia, which I think I have finally said right. Now, I think this is a really easy area to completely forget about, especially earlier on. However, not only is it great for leveling up literally all of your skills, it's also a fantastic way to come across strangelings, not only in the poops, but also out in the wild. But one thing you might not know is there's actually story attributed to this area as well. And on top of this, it is also where a majority of the mounts can be found. So if you want to ditch the camel, you want to start exploring Ginormosia. Now, one thing about this area that I wish I knew earlier on is actually how to tackle some of the trickier shrines. You see, some of the shrines have puzzles attributed to them, and some of them, like the memory ones, can be incredibly difficult. And you might have found it incredibly frustrating when you're doing them that if you mess up one of the levels, it will shove you straight back to the very beginning. But if you look on the screen right here, you'll see that there's a button to retry, and this will actually retry whatever stage you are currently on. So if you think you're about to mess up, instead of actually messing up, click that button and retry just that single stage, instead of having to redo stages 1 and 2 before you can give this one another go. Now, one thing that will help you level up faster in Ginormosia is the fact that you can fine-tune the level of everything you encounter. So all you need to do is walk up to the huge eyeball and change the area level, either to go up higher if you are doing better, or you can bring it down lower if you're going for one of your weaker lives. But the real secret to leveling up, I think, is having friends to run around the area with, as XP is shared. And I'll leave a link to my Discord down below if you need more people to play with. Now, judging by the comment section, one of the biggest things people are having issues with is the crafting mini games. So let's quickly go over how I make things a little bit easier. So earlier we talked about the importance of buddies, and again, it will really help in crafting, as not only can you bring up to 2 of them with you, you can also deck them out in the best gear, level them up a ton by doing some combat with them, and this helps in 2 ways. Firstly, it will mean you have to do less of the crafting actions to finish the item, and it should make things easier at getting a good, great, or perfect job done. You'll also want to keep an eye on the top right hand side of the screen, as here you'll be able to see what the next set of actions actually are. So you'll be able to finish off your current set and be ready for the next one straight away. The way I've found is best for crafting is that you kind of split your time into each of the different crafting stations. So for example, if I know I want to level up blacksmithing, I will do that non-stop till I've made everything I wanted to make. That way I kind of get better at that mini game before I move on to the next one. Otherwise, I think your brain can get a little bit muddled about everything that's going on. Now, the other thing you might be short of, especially if you like to decorate, is money. Now, the quickest and easiest way to make money is to go into your inventory and see if you have any what they call currency items. And if your inventory is massive like mine, you can go to a shop and filter by currency items to see which ones you have. Now, these are items that have no use other than being sold for money. And by the time I finally noticed these items, I had tens of thousands of dosh worth just to sell. Speaking of selling items, weapons and tools are also things that you'll get a ton of when you complete quests. So every now and again, have a little sort through and sell whichever ones you're not using or your buddies aren't using to get some extra money that way. You can also craft excess resources and sell those for a bit of extra money. And the other great way to make money is, of course, completing side quests. And thankfully, Fantasy Life has made these easier than ever to not only do, as you can see in this menu right here, if you need to craft anything for a quest. And then whenever you go into a town, you can see if you've completed any of them, as the person will have a little green tick above them. And hopefully by doing enough of these, you'll have enough money to make your island as beautiful as you want it to be. Now, if you're someone who loves to decorate, you might be looking for more recipes to make your island look beautiful. And for that, you'll be looking at the billboards in each of the different areas. Because once you level these up, you'll get a bunch of decoration items, with each of the areas having their very own theme. Now this kind of goes back to my first point, which is to enjoy exploring, as typically many of the secrets that you come across when you explore will be quests for these billboards. So not only do you get the rewards of finding loot and defeating monsters and trees, you'll also get a bunch of brand new recipes which you can then use on your island. Now, one thing I do wish I knew earlier about the decorating is that you're limited to just 6 villager houses. So bear that in mind if you're trying to plan out your island at all. The final thing I want to touch on is just the end game, or rather what comes after you finish the story. Now, I've seen some people say that Fantasy Life doesn't truly start until the story is finished, but I think that will only be true once the DLC is released. Now, admittedly, even right now, there is a ton to do once the story is done. The game gives you even more reasons to decorate your island. You also have all of the lives that you can try and master. And you're also going to start stumbling across some really rare sets of weapons and armor. And by the sounds of it, this is going to be what the DLC will revolve around. So it's definitely going to be worth your while. So here are a few endgame tips and tricks. Firstly, you can speak to the goddess herself to see what you need to do to level up the island. It's definitely not as hard as Animal Crossing was though, so don't expect to need to renovate your entire island to get those 5 stars. Now, in order to get the rare weapons and the rare armor, you're first of all going to have to find the blueprint for them, and then you're going to have to craft them. But one thing that is really handy to know is that whenever you go to craft an item and you see you're missing one of the resources that you need, you can press LT to bring up this menu, and this will show you where to get each of the materials. So this should give you a starting point into where to look to start crafting them. That's it for everything I've got for my personal tips and tricks, but if there's a particular tip you found very useful, leave it in the comments down below. And if you want to see my full review of Fantasy Life I, click this video here.